Hello, it's me again. I never get to wear this top, especially with the hood up, so I am going to keep it up, even though it looks a little bit funny, but I don't care because I like it. Emma Kate Co mostly has planners, but in amongst those are 3 little gems, which are their unmarked dot grid journals. One of the most versatile 120 GSM papers I've tried in a while, but it doesn't come cheap. I'm Ruby from the Useful Journal. Like this video and subscribe to my channel to never be short of journaling inspiration. Today I'm reviewing a 120 GSM dot grid notebook from Emma Kate Co. I will tell you a bit about the company and their products, the packaging, the construction of the journal, the features and markings in the journal, the paper, the results of the pen test, and I will talk about the company's approach to environmental and social responsibility. Emma Kate is an Australian who expanded her design career to creating a company with customers in over 60 countries. Just because Emma Kate Co is Australian, it doesn't mean they're small. Since they started in 2015, they've expanded their product range and now sell from over 400 wholesalers across the world. The notebooks can be purchased through the Emma Kate Co website, but obviously with so many wholesalers, it's probably worth checking out if there's one close to you. There's a list on the website. Emma Kate Co has 3 dot grid notebooks. 2 are in a scalloped edge leatherette, something I've never seen anyone else do. And the one I bought is a printed hardcover decorated with doodles that represent suburbs of Melbourne. Melbourne is one of the biggest cities in Australia. All the notebooks and planners are not standard sizes. My Melbourne notebook is a signature size and is approximately 15 millimeters shorter and 20 millimeters wider than an A5. So it's getting closer to a square size. I'm really curious to see how the page size works with my favourite spreads. If you're interested in planners, which is Emma Kate's main product, they also come in a grande size, which is a bit smaller than an A4 size. The dot grid notebooks have 160 pages. I have to say these notebooks have a hefty price tag for a 160 page notebook. The price per page in US dollars works out at about 24 cents per page compared to a notebook therapy journal which prices out at 19 cents per page and an Ultra and Olive which prices out at 18 cents per page. Unlike notebook therapy, Emma Kate does not offer free shipping. I bought my copy in the Black Friday sales and managed to get 30% off. So I'm very happy with the price I paid, but that price only comes once a year. So let's see if this journal is worth the ultra premium price. It was nice to see that there was no plastic in the packaging. The journal was packed in a mailer box, cushioned with tissue paper, and comes in a box wrapped in a single layer of paper with a sticker. The box has the same decoration as the cover of the journal and a magnetised flap that opens like a book, which is a lovely touch. The journal has a vertical belly band which has text gilded in gold. I suppose this packaging explains some of the premium price. There were no free gifts. The journal has 3 satin ribbons coordinated with the cover design. There's no closure or pocket and no pen loop, although you can buy one as an extra item. The page corners are square and the edges are gilded in gold. The journal weighs 410 grams and is 18 millimeters thick. This weight and width puts it in the same ballpark as Clever Fox and Jumping Fox Designs journals, which are both also 120 GSM. The paper edges of Emma Kate's Melbourne notebook sit inside the cover. It has a stitched book binding and lays flat. I like this style of spine as it tends to be more durable. The journal has 10 signatures and the joins between the signatures are good and don't make the pages sit up from the spine. For some reason, one of my signatures is missing a full stitch. There's a loop of thread sticking out, but only one isn't going to affect the strength of the binding. The ribbons are extra secure as they're sewn into the binding. This journal is for the minimalist. There are no extra markings, not even a return to owner page. There is just the dot grid and that's it. No page numbers, anything else. I do like the lining pages on the journal because they're really pretty. The pages have 31 dots across the page and 37 dots along the length of the page. The dots are pretty well aligned and only vary across some double page spreads up to 1 millimetre. The dots are always an equal distance from the page edges and they're slightly darker than average but are a nice grey colour and not too big. The paper is 120 GSM and an ivory colour. It's not silky smooth, but certainly doesn't have noticeable tooth. Emma Kate Co state on their website that the paper is uncoated. Most of my tests agree with this statement. For instance, the inks dry very quickly and there was very little smearing for the same reason. And when I painted a row of trees in watercolours, the paint dried very quickly and the results looked great. However, I got very confusing results from my watercolour test circles. This is where I simulate wet on wet technique by laying down water on one circle before painting and then a dry technique circle. There was a lot of spotting of the paint even when I redid the test, which is normally indicative of coated paper because the polymers that fill the gaps in between the fibres and give you that smooth finish don't take the paint in the same way. I really don't understand in this case why I got spotted results on wet technique. It could be the age of the paper, it could be the sizing, which is how it's all been compressed together. I really don't know. At least when I did a test watercolour painting, it looked really good. In my standard pen test, there was minimal bleed through from the water-based Stettler marker and that alcohol-based ultrafine Sharpie. There was ghosting from the Stabilo .88 and the Distress ink, which I used to stamp my balloons. In my additional tests, the Tombow dual brush pens bled and ghosted, but only where I coloured more than one layer of marker. In a 120 GSM journal, it's fairly normal to get bleed when you colour over the same spot more than once. There was no bleed from the watercolours. There was a little feathering when I wrote with a Pilot Metropolitan with a medium nib. This is typical of uncoated paper. Also typical is the quick drying time, as I mentioned before, and in this case it took only 3 seconds to avoid smearing when wiping your hand across a Pigma Micron pen. There was no smearing when highlighting after writing text. It's been a while since I was able to erase pencil and leave no shadow behind, so that was a really good result. The Pilot Friction pen also erased nicely. In terms of whiteout, the Jelly Roll pen had the best result. If we ignore the circle test results, the watercolour paintings turned out quite beautifully. The paints behaved like watercolours should, and there was lovely shading of colours and the ability to create some depth in the image. The paints had a minimal impact on the back of the page, and for a 120 GSM paper, there was much less wrinkling and warping than I expected. These results were pretty good, and I'm a little bit impressed. Let's start with social responsibility. Emma Kate Co does compliance checks on the factories in China to make sure that the working conditions for all the staff in the factories meet their employment conditions. Emma Kate Co notebooks use paper that comes from sustainable forestry practices and has been certified by the Forest Stewardship Council. I have viewed this certificate. It's good to see more Chinese companies investing in FSC certification because previously that hasn't been very common. It's very much been a European thing. It was really great to see that there was no plastic in that packaging at all. If you buy this journal at full price, you won't be disappointed, but there are alternatives that are still good quality and are a little bit cheaper. If you're willing to pay a little bit more for a notebook that appeals to you, then Emma Kate Co has some very original designs, including this Melbourne cover and the two scalloped edge journals. The results of the pen test are pretty high for a 120 GSM journal, even for watercolour and especially if the paper is uncoated. It's really nice to be able to use watercolours on uncoated paper and not have to worry about bleed through, especially when that paper is only 120 GSM. And I also really love the fact that it has been FSC certified. I'm really glad to own this journal, pleased that I managed to get it at a discounted price, and I hope I've piqued your interest in it. So go take a look. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel and go and have a look because there are lots of great journal reviews there and I hope you'll have a look at some while you're there. See ya.